Kātangi te titi, kātangi te kākā, kātangi hoki a. Whakarongo ake au ki te tangi a te manu nei, tui, tui, tutuia. Tui ai runga, tui ai raro, tui ai te muka tangata i tāki a mai i a waiki nui, a waiki roa, a waiki pāmawa, ti hei mauriori. Nau mai ki taku whānau, nau mai ki taku whare whānau, te whare o taku te maititanga, te whare e whānau mai aku te maiti e rua, Molly, rawa ko Bella, nau mai hara mai. This is my house that I was brought up in. This is my house where my sisters grew and I grew up. My parents brought us up here in a place full of history. It's 120 years old, I think, and it's been as big an influence on me as anything. I'm Sam Ludden, Sam Hamuera Ludden, Campbell Ludden. Campbell is my mother's maiden name, and my father is Mick Ludden. My mother is Peter Campbell, and I'm a potter and an artist and a father and a lover of the environment. Why do I do what I do? Well, I always liked getting dirty, like having clay on my hands felt very natural to me. And when I discovered a couple of potters or heroes, mentors in this region, getting dirty for a living, I didn't look back. I couldn't keep myself away. But I guess I've always loved art, sculpture especially. And when I was first starting out, there weren't too many people doing sculpture, apart from my art teacher at school. But no one making a living from being an artist or a sculptor. But my friends were very good friends with a guy called Paul Mouser, who's a local potter in the Wairarapa, and he's been making a living from his craft for, I would imagine, about 40 years. He's brought up a whole family from what he makes, and he's a traditional potter. He's an artist as well, but he's a potter. And I did work experience with him, and it wasn't what he was making, it was his lifestyle, it was the way he lived that I fell in love with. And he pointed me in the right direction to meet other potters and Wanganui Community Polytech, which had a ceramics course, and that was the beginning. I was about 17, and I went and studied for 3 years under various potters, but mainly under the tutorship of Ross Mitchell-Anyon, who is still a hero of mine. And again, it was the lifestyle and the philosophy of using your hands to make things. I wasn't worried about anything else. It was just making things is all I wanted to do, and making them beautiful And there's nothing more beautiful than function, as I learned throughout that period. A piece of handmade craft that works is unbeatable. You can't beat that. The beauty is in the function. And so that was the beginning. That's why I do what I do. That was in the 90s. I graduated in 98. And since then, it's all evolved to the pottery I've got now. At a certain point, I realised it's a lot harder to make money from cups and jugs compared to sculpture. The outdoor sculpture home garden movement was happening, and I happened to struck on a couple of successful works that people love, and all of a sudden I found myself less on the wheel and more making clay sculpture, in particular my eels, which I'm also very passionate about. As a young guy with not very much money and big ambitions to travel, I was a potter but not making any money. I just graduated, and my friend that I grew up with was a commercial fisherman, and I'd spent all my life in the rivers, catching crawlies, swimming with eels, kayaking, and he needed a worker, and so I spent 2 summers working for Matt Paku and Lincoln Paku, his son, and Lincoln's one of my best friends, and we got to travel around the Wairarapa, every inch of it, searching the rivers and creeks and ponds and wetlands for eels to make a living. This is again in the 90s, when there was a lot of it, and I learnt to love our landscape in a conscious sort of way. I guess I've always loved it, as kids do, but I realised this is my home, Wairarapa. It was a good life, and then I eventually saved enough to go travelling around the UK. I lived in France for many years, a couple of years. I think I came back 6 years later. And while I was over there, 9/11 happened. I was homesick and trying to figure out what the hell I was going to do. And it was almost like a dream about eels, like a making eels out of clay. It was a moment of inspiration. I think there was another sculptor that was making ceramic fish over there, and they were crazy underwater deep sea fish things, and I guess I was a little bit influenced by him, by homesickness and my thoughts of home, and a hunch that I wouldn't be the only one that loves eels, and came back to this place, which is a shed I grew up in, and I came back and turned it into a pottery in 2003. And the first thing I invested my time in was developing these eels, and pure luck, I think people just love them straight away, and I keep expecting them to fade. I often wonder how many eels I'm going to make, but I had an exhibition that opened on Friday down in Timaru, which I've never been to, and they sold out on the first night. So I guess I've been making them for 10 years at least. They've been getting better and better and evolving, but they're still selling, and it's great. It still inspires me. I'm stuck on the same thing. Sometimes I feel like I'm just repeating myself, but it's feeding my family. It's keeping the place going. And the eels, it's a bit of a message. I'm putting them in front of people, making people realise their connection to perhaps childhood memories, perhaps their river, perhaps the plight of our environment. And so I'll keep doing it. I'll keep making them.